Research by the Conference Board shows that 60% of workers rank mental well-being, specifically stress and burnout, as a top workplace concern, which is no surprise after a tumultuous few years following the pandemic. Employees are facing burnout like never before, and discussions around quiet quitting and the great resignation have become commonplace. With burnout on the rise, companies face the risk of employees leaving the company for new opportunities. So, how can companies retain talent and better support an employee's career development? One solution to this burgeoning issue is hiring internally for new roles. Looking for talent within the business before moving on to an external application is a great opportunity for both employers and employees. But it can also bring its own challenges, from testing relationships within existing teams and the employer avoiding bias. So, how can these challenges be addressed? Hello and welcome to NES Chat with me, Lauren. NES Chat provides key recruitment and industry insights into the oil and gas, chemical, power and renewable energy, mining and life science industries, as well as providing the technical personnel that serve them with career advice from our dedicated experts. Today's expert is Janine Halliday, Global Talent Acquisition Director for NES Fircroft. Janine has been in recruitment for over 10 years and still gets a buzz when she finds that perfect match. We'll be discussing everything you need to know about hiring internally, including how a current employee can go after an internal job opening without burning bridges, and how employers can support their staff through internal moves. Janine has also made a few internal moves herself, so is well versed on this topic. Janine, welcome to NES Chat.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, I really want to just get straight into talking about career development in the employee's current company. So, how can someone identify opportunities? How can they plan their career to ensure they get the skills they need to progress?
Yeah, I think it's a really important one because, most people when they join a company, they're not looking to stay in that role forever, right? They want to know that there's something there. I think the first thing for me, as soon as you feel that you're interested in looking for the next step, you need to be aware of what your company policy is, because you want to make sure that you go about it the right way and you don't step on anyone's toes and you approach it properly. So you should always research what the policy is for an internal move. It's important to know, do you need to flag it to your manager? Do you need approval? What the situation is. And then I think for me, it's really thinking about what that next move should be. And a good way to approach that is always a bit of internal and external research. So it could be something really simple. You could see your colleague already at that next step and you think that would be something I'm ready for. But if not, it's always good to research that, look externally and have a chat with your manager as well, and then put a plan in place from there to see what's available.
Cool. And how should an employee go about applying for a job internally? Like, do you have any kind of CV or interview advice for an internal application?
Yeah, I think for me probably the most one that stands out above everything is sometimes people will think because you're looking for an internal move that you're a shoo-in and you should go about the process in an informal way and it's very different. And reality is that that's just not the case. If you're looking at a new role, you could well be looking at a different manager, you could be looking at a different location, someone that doesn't know you. So it's really important that you treat it like a professional process. Don't do anything different that you wouldn't do if you were looking at an internal move. Get your CV updated. Take the time to sit and think about, why do you think that you're suitable for that role? And it should never just be, I'm looking for more salary. It should always be because you want to move into that position, particularly you're ready for it, you think it would be a great next step. And as I say, be mindful of what your company policy is, and be respectful of that.
Yeah, that leads me on quite nicely to my next question. So I think a lot of people will be put off from applying for an internal position for, fear of burning bridges with their current team or their current manager. So, what is the best way to go for an internal job and it be a positive interaction for everyone?
Yeah. And again, I think one key thing really stands out for me here, which is don't take your foot off the gas. Um, Sometimes, somebody will put an internal application in, and the worst thing that you can do is think that's probably going to happen for me, or maybe you're already in process. I'll sit back a little bit, and that's something that you really don't want to do. If you're going for an internal move, it's so important to protect your reputation in the company. So you need to be operating at full speed all the time, as usual. Secondly, I would say maintain confidentiality with your team, because it can be quite distracting in a team environment if you've got somebody that's eyes are somewhere else, and maybe they feel that you're not pulling your weight. So don't act any differently around your team. Have those discussions with your manager, and be prepared to discuss why you're looking for that internal move. What is it that's grabbed you? What maybe does this position offer that the other position doesn't? And think about the time, and when and where you would have that discussion, right? You want to do that in the right way. You don't want to be grabbing someone while they're just trying to have a morning coffee going, oh, hey, by the way, I'm just applying for this position, right? So, pick your moment. I would suggest that, you book in a 10-minute chat and show that you've really prepared about this, and also make it clear that you are really still dedicated in that role. You'd like their support to move through that process, but you will be continuing, obviously, to operate at maximum capacity, because that's really important. Often with internal moves, we would personally take an internal reference as well. And the last thing that you want is something to be impacted because you've been distracted, right? So just make sure there's a time and a place to look at that internal move, and follow the process through in the right way.
Awesome. And, what happens if you apply for that job and then you don't get it? Like, how can you keep a good relationship with the team?
Yeah, look, rejection is hard, right? We've all been there. We've all had something that hasn't come through. Um, I think that the most key point from this is that you can turn that rejection round into something positive. You just need to approach it the right way. Number one, get the interview feedback. And if you don't feel that you've had enough information, ask for more information, ask for more detail, because that will be your key. It might just be that you've just been one or two steps, 6 months, 12 months away, from being able to be considered for that next opportunity. Um, Really look at yourself and be quite critical on how you performed in the interview. When you go back step by step, did you give it everything? Did you build rapport? Could you have given stronger examples? Is there anything that you personally feel next time I can use that as a bit of a learning curve? Um, I would be really positive as well, as much as you can be, with the hiring manager that interviewed you for the role, because again, you don't want to close down those future opportunities. What might not be right today, like I said, maybe 6 months to 12 months, maybe you will be that perfect candidate and you'll stay on their mind, but not if you've handled it in a really negative way. And then for me, it's always a good idea to look at putting a personal development plan in place. Now, at NES Fircroft, we're super lucky because we have a lot of these personal development plans aligned against our career site, which is great. We've got a really clear progression chart, and against every next level, you can see easily how would I develop that and work for that. Hopefully, your company has one, but if it doesn't, again, I would look at a very detailed approach to put something in place. Where did they feedback that I was falling short, or maybe my experience isn't as strong? And what can I be doing over the next 6 to 12 months to get where I want to be? So that would be my advice there.
Lovely. Thank you. I'd like to look at this topic from the other side now. So, as a manager, how do you deal with the situation where someone in your team has decided that they want to change teams or they want to move to a different position?
Yeah, this is a really crucial one, right? Because as a hiring manager, you have to deal with this in the right way, because we are moving towards ever more towards talent mobility and having to support these in businesses. So, firstly, I would say if your employee comes to you and wants to have that discussion, firstly, create the right environment to have that. Again, if someone's grabbing you over a coffee, pull them into a a more formal environment so that you can go through that with them. Secondly, I would say you want to understand really what's been the trigger for that person to have a look, and have they done the homework? Are they looking for something in this position just because maybe they feel that they can't get that from their role? Maybe it is something that you can bring in and look at working towards with them. So I think that's really important. I would say confidentiality is a huge one as well. Again, like I touched upon on the other side of the fence, it can be really disruptive if you have team members that think that somebody's interested to move. It can cause a lot of unrest. So it's really important that you maintain confidentiality yourself, and that you let your team member know that these discussions need to be just between you both for the time being, and obviously the position that they're looking to hire in. Um, Another really important one is, again, don't assume just because it's an internal move that your team member is going to be a shoe in for that new position. Don't push a button on a new hire until everything's been, sort of cross the T's, dot the I's, because that would be a terrible situation to be in. And I think just, maintain open lines of communication, because if you make this process difficult as a hiring manager, all you're going to see is employees disengage, and they'll leave anyway. What you want to do is create that supportive environment, so that people are comfortable to talk to you about that. And you know what? If that hire doesn't work out, you want to maintain that team member for as long as you can. And if they get rejected, sit down with them. What can we do? How can we develop you so that you can get there as well? It should be a partnership, and try and make the discussion as easy as possible, because, like we said, it's a difficult subject to broach, and it's one that we need to respect the person that's come to have a chat with us.
Yeah, and I guess to not take it personally, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody, has to look after their own career, right? You can't stay put in a role to please people. Much as it's nice and easy sometimes to have someone that knows exactly what they're doing inside and out, be respectful and think, if it was you, or a husband or a wife, how would you want that person to be treated if they're broaching that subject with their manager?
Yeah, perfect. So, why, this again leads on really nicely to my next question. Why is supporting employees with an internal move important for a company's talent strategy?
Well, an interesting statistic, actually, I heard a couple of weeks ago at a great conference that we were at. Around 70% of Generation Z are looking for a company that supports talent mobility. So, as we move forward, and our next generation are going to be coming into the workplace, more and more people are looking for businesses that do support that. And these can be really, really powerful case studies. It's something that we've focused on internally as well. And for me, those internal moves are to be celebrated. So from an attraction point of view, it's huge. From a retention point of view, again, according to LinkedIn, actually, employers are twice as likely to retain employees if they have a good talent mobility strategy. So if people feel that they're going to be able to tick the boxes of their career with you, they're going to be much longer to stay. And obviously, we all know, sort of cost of hire and training, etc. If we can keep our employees for longer, then that's what we should be doing. And I think just generally as well, it keeps people motivated, and it encourages our staff to develop their skills and to learn new skills as well, right? And constantly be bringing the best that they can every day. So it's something, luckily in NES Fircroft, we employ. I moved from the UK. Certainly I've had a lot of colleagues that have moved around, regions and globally. It's so key. I hope that we, continue to embrace this across companies. It's a great strategy, and it just shouldn't be underestimated how important it is.
Absolutely. And something that you just said there about the Gen Z statistic about 70% looking for that mobility. I think that's quite an interesting turn of events, I suppose, if you will, because I know for a really long time it was always the advice was always, don't stay at a company longer than a couple of years. I actually got told by a senior person in one of my previous positions that I shouldn't stay somewhere for longer than 4 years. And it was kind of like, well, why? Like, if I'm happy in my career, why is that the advice? Have you seen a kind of change over the last few years of people, kind of,
100%, 100%. And do you know what? 10 years ago, I was probably hearing the same advice as well. Keep things moving, keep things fresh. Every 2, 3, 4 years. But the reality of that is, if we can, open up those opportunities and keep people growing. For me, these days, if I see someone's CV, I actually much prefer to see stability within the same company and growth, because to me that demonstrates that someone's done such an amazing job. They've invested and moved them into another role, which just speaks volumes. It's not a bad thing to move companies sometimes, but I think if you can get what you need from different roles, sometimes it can make that move a lot easier, right? If you already know that company well. And yes, it's just what we're seeing a lot more from the next generation, coming in and looking for that. So I think it's fantastic that we're open to that, and hopefully a lot of other people are as well.
thank you. Thank you so much for your time today, Janine.
You're very welcome.
You've been listening to NES Chat, the recruitment podcast brought to you by NES Fircroft. We hope you found this episode helpful, whether you're looking for an internal move or you're a hiring manager. If you'd like more career advice, check out our other podcast episodes through SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Or you can watch the live recording on our YouTube channel at NES Fircroft. We have plenty of internal roles available, so if you'd like to learn more about working at NES Fircroft, visit careers.nesfircroft.com. Thanks so much for listening, and see you next time.